Welcome to episode 454 of the Get Paid for Your Pad podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Muller, Jesper Ribbers, and we're doing an episode of STR Conversations. What is up, Eric?
Yo, what's going on?
You went on a trip over the weekend, right? You took a couple days off. Like, tell me where did you go?
Yeah, we went out to Monmouth Lakes, California, which is about a 6.5 hour drive from San Diego. And it's right outside Yosemite Park. So it's like absolutely beautiful. It's like a whole nother world up there, man. Like huge mountains, ton of snow. I felt like I was in Colorado. I couldn't believe I was in California, So yeah, we had some friends that own a condo up there in the village. So we went up there. They went snowboarding all weekend. I've decided to opt out and spend the weekend with some thinking time. So I carved out some thinking time to try to solve some of our biggest business challenges that we're running into right now or experiencing. And yeah, dude, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Might be a future spot for Freewyld up there. It's an awesome little town.
Sweet, man. A 6.5 hour drive, you said?
Yeah.
That's quite far.
Yeah, it's fun. It's nice. It's nice though. Like living in California, man, you can get to so many different types of landscapes within just a few hour drive, right? So I enjoy the long car rides, throw a couple of podcasts on, a couple of songs, and before you know it, you're in a whole different world. So yeah, man, we drove up Friday morning and drove back down Sunday. So I think that says a lot for the traveler too, right? Is like how far are they willing to drive to for an experience? And we have found that the average person here in the States is willing to drive up to 6 hours for a weekend trip. So we did that exactly. So it was 6.5 hours. And if anyone, man, you would love it too. I know you're a skier, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's gorgeous up there. So 6.5 hours. And then this weekend I'm taking a bit shorter trip, but a whole different world, which we'll get into here in a second.
Yeah, I'm excited to share that because this is the first time that we do this. But essentially what we're doing is we're giving every single team member in a team, we're giving them a budget to go out and book an Airbnb this weekend and stay there. And then we're all going to be sharing where we're staying and what we're learning. Of course, whenever we stay at Airbnbs, we always we look at these Airbnbs different than most guests probably because we were trying to learn and get inspired and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to do this. I've booked a pretty amazing spot here up in the mountains in Panama.
Why don't we give some background on why we're doing that? Right. So one thing that we're going through right now with overnight success is that the team is growing really, really quick. And we have a pretty big team right now. We're hiring a handful of other people, key players in the next 30 days, which is really awesome. But we set out certain goals, right? And this is a good culture building technique for any team. It's like we set out 3 main goals for this year and for this quarter. We had a target, we had a baseline, and we had a stretch goal, right? And we just almost hit the stretch goal for what we were looking to do with overnight success. And because of that, we set some targets for the team of if we hit this goal, we will all give everyone X amount of dollars per night to book a unique stay, right? So we hit all those goals. Everyone's getting X amount of dollars per night. The only rules around it is that every team member needs to book it has to be a unique place. Can't just go to a regular Airbnb. It's got to be unique. Also, we all have to go at the same exact time. So our team all around the world. So we can't travel together, but we're able to have these unique experiences on the same weekend. So that's coming up this week. We're going to be taking off Friday and starting our weekend early. So would you book? What do you guys have set up for this weekend?
Yeah, I want to share. I'm going to do something new here on the podcast. This is going to be really exciting. Like, I'm actually going to share my screen so that people who are listening to the podcast on YouTube, they will actually be able to see it. But before I share it, I wanted to say, we are. I think our team is in 6 different countries and 3 different continents. So just for the
Mhm.
listeners, like we're all over the world with our team, so that also makes it like a really interesting experience because we're all going to be in different countries, different places, different landscapes. And like, I'm going to be in the jungle, for example. There's going to be
Right.
monkeys and stuff. But yeah, I want to share what I'm doing. Like, this is a mountain town about 1 hour outside of Panama City. So I live in Panama City, Panama the country, not Florida. I was on a podcast a couple of days ago, and I said Panama City, and they're like, "Oh, you're in Florida," and I was like, "No, this is a country. There's a
The
country
original.
called Panama." Exactly. Yeah. So just about an hour outside of the city, there's a really cool mountain town, and it's literally, you can see on the map here, it's literally like in the middle of nowhere in the jungle, and it has a view over the city. So I'm showing a
Mhm.
photo right now of the infinity pool that the villa has, and you see the sunset, but also in the background you can actually see Panama City. So that's what I'm most excited about in this property is just seeing the sunset and seeing the city
Mhm.
in the background. But also there's monkeys, and there's like all sorts of jungle animal. Like, it's literally in the middle of the jungle. So I'm
Yeah, it's
super
pretty
excited,
cool, man.
man.
I love
Yeah.
that.
What
I love that.
what about you? Where are you going?
Yeah. So this is going to be a solo trip for me. Samantha has a an event coming up this weekend, so she's not going to be around. And we spent the last 2 weekends. So last weekend we were in Joshua Tree. So I took Samantha out for her birthday. Went to rented this amazing place. Talked about it. Um, this past weekend, we just spent in the mountains. So I said, okay, what are some other elements I could get into here that will create a unique experience, and that would be set up for a solo trip. So I'm going to take a solo trip, more thinking time, plan on journaling, plan on solving the biggest problems in our business, all of that for this weekend. So I found this amazing. I live in San Diego, North San Diego. I found this amazing yacht for rent on Airbnb that's in the harbor of San Diego. So it's about 40 minutes, 30 minutes south of where I'm at. And it's an old ship that was built in the 1920s or 1930s, and it's all wood, beautiful, beautiful wood. It's got 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and it's parked in the harbor, so it doesn't leave the harbor. But yeah, I'm staying on the boat for the whole weekend. I check in Friday, check out Sunday, and then what I've decided to do is create. I used to do this a lot when I was living in the entrepreneur house. Would create mastermind dinners. So I would reach out to some high level people that I wanted to build some relationships with, but also people that I know that I wanted to connect them as well. And we would create what's called mastermind dinners. So we would sit down, have a cool experience, but then also have a intentional conversation. So Friday night, I'm bringing together two guys I know that are running some very high level companies in the educational space. We're going to have a mastermind dinner on scaling educational companies. So we're going to do that Friday. All day Saturday is going to kind of be a disconnect and problem solving journaling day. And then Sunday is going to be, back home. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Wow,
Never
that's
done that
solid, dude.
before. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, make sure to share some stories on Instagram so we can see what you're up to. I'll do the same. If I
Yeah.
run into some monkeys and stuff, I'll do a little Instagram story. And if you're not following us on Instagram, you can find us. Just put our names in the Instagram. You'll probably find us, and then you can see what we're up to this weekend.
Yeah. I haven't been on Instagram in a very long time, so we're actually hiring a new team member to help us manage that. But yeah, I'll share this. So, all right, man, let's talk about Freewyld. We got quite a bit coming up for this project. We got a lot of lessons learned. We got a lot of things that are working, things that aren't working. Let's dive into that, man. give everybody an update on your side of what's happening with Freewyld.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So just to give everybody a background, if you're new to the podcast, Eric and I bought a property back in, what was it, September, right? End of September, we bought our first property for our new property brand called Freewyld. We took over an existing business, so it was a property that had 4 cabins in Idyllwild in California. I've actually never been there, so I've been managing it remotely, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. I've never managed an Airbnb or my own Airbnb if I hadn't been there myself.
Mm.
I've helped other people manage their units where I hadn't been there, but then they would have they would have a lot of things in place. But it's interesting to be managing your own something that you bought and then not having been there. But it's also forced me to be creative, right? Because I do the guest communication, you're leading like the development that we're doing, you're leading the branding and all of that. But it pushed me to be more creative. And then just to share a learning lesson is the parking, right? We have a number of parking spots, and we used to get a lot of questions around like, hey, where do I park my car? And it's kind of difficult to explain to somebody where they can park if you've never been at the property. So I decided to go into Google Maps, right? You can do Street View and literally like record a loom of me going through Google Street View and looking at all the parking spots. And then in Loom now you can point out things. So Loom is a tool that you can use to record your screen. Really super useful tool. We use it a lot. But you can also draw on the screen, so you can point things out. So this particular guest had a question around like where they should be parking. They had like 5 cars, and I sent that Loom, and I realized like this is a really good way to explain things to the guest versus writing like a message, just recording a quick Loom for them. Even when you're not at the location, you could just literally screen record a Google Street View. So I was that guest like messaged me and was like, wow, that was like a great explanation. He really appreciated it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that we're going to work into the automations as well. I was thinking about that. Especially when we go to add in all of those additional units, the parking and everything else that's going to come along with it. There's, again, like creating that step-by-step experience, trying to understand and solving problems for our guests prior to them even arriving, and tools like Loom and, things like that are extremely useful. So, that's awesome, man. Yeah. And it's, man, it's been crazy. I can't believe we bought that back in September. So it's coming on 6 months now, since we've owned it. And, the goal there again, you guys are, for the people that are just hearing about this now, we bought nearly 3 acres, up there on the creek, right down the block from the city, like the town center. And there's 4 existing structures on there. And the idea was to move as fast as possible to add anywhere between 10 and 15 new structures on the property. And as we started getting into it, this is one of my biggest lessons learned, and something I'm completely shocked about. I knew how crazy it was, but now that we're trying to get into it, especially in these smaller markets like Idyllwild, it's a 2.5 hour drive from San Diego, 2.5 hour drive from LA. Palm Springs is about an hour away from there, but it's this tiny little mountain town, secondary market. So there's not a lot of contractors or architects or anybody up there. So we have to find people to travel to that town. But one of the craziest things that I've learned is how backed up the construction world is right now. I knew it was crazy. But now that we're in this project and building something of this scale, it's going to be, I mean, $3 to $4 million build out, right? With all the structure and utilities, everything else that comes into it. So a pretty big project. I cannot find contractors. Everybody architects, survey companies. I'm trying to get what's called a topographical survey, where they bring in machinery and they study all of the land, and they put a survey together and let you know where the trees and rocks are and grades and all that stuff. So then we can take that and build it. Just to get a quote is taking me 2 months. So the contractors, the survey companies in the area that do this, they're backed up 2 to 3 months on just quotes alone. That's how crazy the industry is right now. And as we know, like, you know, especially in the recent weeks, gas is going up, lumber is going up, timber's going up. Like, the cost is through the roof. It's crazy to me. So now it's kind of forcing us to kind of pivot with the mindset and like going back to, okay, well, do we develop foundation ground up, or do we do offsite module builds and then bringing it back down? And then you're like, oh, well, to do a module build, can I get a crane down into this area and placing these properties, these structures in with all these trees? So the level of complexity behind this project is pretty intense. The one thing that I did not anticipate was how backed up the construction industry was going to be. Architects, the architect that we wanted to hire for this, he's like, I can't take on new work for another year and a half. He's like, I have an ongoing list. So that's one major challenge that we're running into. So the way that we're pivoting here is, as we're going down the development side, we're also now going down the redesign of the 4 existing properties that we have. And that is fun. That's fun. We could get that up and running a lot faster. There's more contractors, especially if we say, okay, in 3 months from now, we're going to start the renovation. And we can put the whole project plan together. We can get people backed up or lined up for that. So yeah, trying to manage the whole new build and the renovation side is becoming one of the biggest challenges I personally ever had to deal with. Has nothing to do with short-term rentals. It's the development side of the business, right? But then it's also, yeah. So I'll leave it there. That's one of the biggest challenges that we're running into, is the construction side of this business, and I'm really interested to see if this is going to change in the next couple of months, or if we're going to continue to go down this path where the industry is just super backed up.
Yeah, for sure. We hear that all the time, like all over the place. Like, it's really hard. Even cleaners in a lot of markets is really hard to find cleaners. It's funny because my girlfriend is actually now working as an assistant for a cleaning company in Florida, and one of the things that she's doing is she's interviewing new cleaners for that business, and it's crazy like how hard it is to find cleaners. Like,
yeah, it's
really challenging.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand how all this is happening, man. But it's the world that we're in, right? So it's like, this comes back down to what we already know and what we preach is the importance of systems and the importance of the plan. And it's like, luckily we're in a position where we don't have to worry about growth right away. Right. And the financing is set up in a way that is allowing us to be patient through this process. So this is really forcing us to focus on, really, in my mind, 2 main things. One is, how do we get the current property running like a machine, the 4 units running like a machine? And then 2 is how to build the team to support us. Because you and I, our focus is in scaling overnight success. We don't have the time, and obviously focus is growing Freewyld. We don't have the time to get in there as Hectic Host to build all this stuff ourselves. So now we got to start leading, right? And the only way for us to build this business is to have systems, a direction, and the right team in place. And that's going to be our number one thing for Q2, is getting all of those elements in place so we can start scaling this.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say the biggest challenges I see on my end is also running 2 companies at the same, or building 2 companies at the same time is really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Building one business is difficult, right? Building 2 is it is just that more exciting. But I don't know if you noticed this, man, but the approach of building Freewyld has been completely different than the way that I built my businesses in the past. because of our knowledge of scaling overnight success and all the other businesses that we've had in the past in the background, um, going into Freewyld, we just have a different approach now on how we're doing this. And it's not overwhelming. We only have 4 units. So it's very, very manageable. The overwhelming part is building the brand, building the company, the direction, putting the business plan together, putting the finances together, all that stuff. Stuff takes time. That takes patience. It takes research. Um, so that's the difficult part. The managing the day-to-day of it is pretty damn easy, right? I shouldn't say easy. It's a simple approach to running all of this, and it's going to become slightly more simplified in the next month or so, because we're bringing in some additional help on that current property. But this is like building the overall brand. And I talk to so many hosts that want to build these types of brands, and they get so overwhelmed on where to start first, right? And that's something that we're constantly reapproaching. It's like, how do we, this is something that I got clear on this weekend. It's like, what are our cadences on you and I meeting for this business to solve the biggest problems as they come up? I'm not talking about hosting problems. I'm not talking about like how to solve the parking problem for our guests and things like that. I'm saying solve the biggest problems of how do we get our business plan to a place where we can approach an investor, get the cash to hire the people that we need to hire.
Yeah.
Right. So creating those cadences, solving those bigger problems, that when we talk about like, that's our challenge, like difficult running 2 businesses, though, that's the biggest challenge. It's not running the short-term rental side of the business. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's also so much easier because like we have, we know what we're doing, but we also have the systems in place and everything. We do need to update some stuff for sure. But the basis is there. And I mean, overall, taking over the management of these 4 units was pretty smooth, I would say. We didn't really have too many crazy challenges. Biggest challenge we had, I guess, was somebody stayed at one of our units a couple of weeks ago and kind of walked into the wrong unit. Like
there's a bit more to that story, but yeah, I mean, that's but that's the thing too, right? Like having hands-on management here, dealing with a guest like that who's drunk and is going into the wrong unit, like that makes you think of like, oh, how do we actually solve this in the future? And yeah, we have all the tools that are in place, but then the property's set up for that to accidentally happen, right? So like, how do we redesign the village to make sure that guests are protected through the process?
Yeah. Well, that was a fun, we have some challenges, but for me, it's kind of fun. Like I realized like in my Airbnb career, I haven't had a lot of guest challenges. So it's almost like interesting to me to see something like
experience
that happen. Well, it's also because we have 4 units on the same property, right? So that's you get different challenges than that's different than when you have one home over there and then another one over there. They're not connected.
Dude, have you one thing that I when I was up in Mammoth, I was talking to my friend who has a condo up there. He's had it for 17 years, and he's just like, ever since COVID, he's been at like a 98% occupancy rate. And he's like, I just keep raising my prices and people keep booking. No one cancels, regardless if it snows out or not. It's just always booked during the winter, right? And what I found interesting, he was like, regardless, because people go up there to snow and ski board, right? Or snow or ski. Snowboard or ski. There we go. But he's like, no one cancels regardless if it snows or not. And I've noticed on our side, we're getting, I don't know if you've noticed this either. Maybe you can shine some light on this. I'm noticing a lot of cancellations coming in, last minute cancellations. And it's a lot of it's tied to like COVID and things like that. But have you noticed that, or what have you noticed around the trend of cancellations on our properties?
Yeah, no, it's honestly like I don't think we had a single cancellation until January. And it was mostly February. Or maybe mid-January when we started getting a few cancellations. Some of them were definitely related to COVID, because some of the guest messages and literally said, hey, somebody in our house got COVID. Like, we don't feel like it's responsible for us to travel right now, which is understandable. But I think the market that you are talking about when it comes to what's it called, Mammoth?
Yeah, Mammoth.
Yeah, yeah, that's a skiing. That's the area where people go to ski and
Mm-hmm.
snowboard, right? One
Mm-hmm.
thing I noticed too is that some of our guests are not familiar with, for example, driving in snowy conditions. So we had
Right.
some guests reach out and say, and I don't know if some of the cancellations were that was the reason, but we did have a few guests who messaged us and said like, "Hey, I'm not familiar. I don't want to drive when it's snowing." So we moved a couple of reservations around a couple times, you
Yeah, yeah.
know, to to help them with that. But I think that could be something that maybe some people will cancel if there's too much snow and they're concerned about driving.
Yeah, I just think we that's one of the blessings of living in Southern California is that it's sunny out all the time, right? And people are not used to driving from LA 2 hours east, and now they're in the mountains with snow. But so yeah, I'm recognizing that there's a lot of cancellations coming in. But then what I recognize is like people have a destination, like when they're driving to Mammoth or flying into Mammoth, like they're going there to snowboard or ski. There's a reason for them to be there. In our market, Idyllwild, there's a couple of different reasons that people are driving out there, but I'm also noticing that a lot of people are discovering Idyllwild for the first time, right?
Hmm.
From LA or San Diego. So if we part of our marketing, part of Freewyld that I want to build in is that the reason to travel to Idyllwild, right? Outside of just being in the mountains, it's like we're going there to hike, we're going there to disconnect, we're going there to explore the art in the community. So like in our marketing, really educating our guests so they have a reason to go and a reason not to cancel. Right.
Hmm.
So like I think that's a big thing and really getting them comfortable about being back out and traveling. So even during like snow and things like that. It's like, how do we actually educate through our marketing for our guests to, regardless of the situation, be excited about being there, right?
Yeah.
Because I was blown away hearing like he's at 98% success rate or occupancy rate with no cancellations. So yeah, there's gonna in these secondary markets, there's some major learning lessons for us on the marketing side.
Yeah. But also, if you're going somewhere to ski or snowboard, then you're not going to cancel when because it snows, right? Because that's where you're going there.
No. So, but the opposite, right? So if they don't get snow,
Mm,
you're gonna
yeah.
want to most people want to cancel, right? But they're still driving out there,
Yeah.
traveling out there, regardless if they can snowboard or not.
Yeah, they probably hope that it's going to snow in a couple of days.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been skiing since I was 4 years old, and we've been in that situation too, where we used to drive from Holland all the way to Austria or Switzerland or France, and even if there was no snow, we'd still go because we'd be like, yeah, but it might snow in 2 days, so we're going
Got it.
anyway.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like
for sure.
you just want to ski and snowboard. We're passionate about it. Um, Cool, man. So, well, let's see what else are we get into here. We've talked about the branding. We talked about what we're working on. We talked about some of the challenges that come up. But I think a big part is building the team, right? We're
Yep.
onboarding a virtual assistant. I'm actually working on that tomorrow. Where you and I are talking about that tomorrow. What are your thoughts of like what does the rest of the team look like?
Yeah. Well, this is the interesting part for for the listeners here. It's the way that we've decided to go about Freewyld is taking I think there's two main ways of like building a business. There's one is getting your hands dirty and just getting after it, getting a bunch of properties and like this is who we coach in the Legends X program is the hectic host, that the hands-on person who's kind of building everything as they go, because also they need to get the cash flow coming in, and that's their lifestyle is what they can generate through their business. Or we take the second approach where it's like, okay, we proven the model, we have a clear brand, a clear vision. Now it's like slowly being patient and building the brand, building the vision, and getting the right people in the right seats, so then you can develop the business, right? we've decided to take the patient approach of building this company because one, we look at it as a generational company, right? It's something that's going to be around for a very long time. We don't necessarily need the cash flow on this right now. That's not, we don't need that to survive. So it's, and I've never been in that position before, man. And it feels freaking amazing. It feels amazing about being in a spot where I could build this company, and help build this company from a place of abundance versus a place of scarcity where it's like, I got to move. I got to go 100 miles an hour because I need money, right? Like that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So for us, we're taking the approach of like, we've proven the model. Our investors like it. We're clear on the brand. We're clear on where we're going with the whole thing. Now it's getting clear on who do we have to hire and by when do we have to hire them? And that was a big part of what I was journaling on this weekend is like, what is our biggest problem? Who do I need to hire to help us solve that biggest problem? And then how long am I willing to wait for this person to come into my life? So I was journaling on that all weekend, just over and over and over again. I'm like, how long am I willing to wait? And I've gotten pretty clear that I'm willing. So I recognize our biggest problem is we need a operational manager. Right. Our first outside of the VA, virtual assistant for customer service, our first main hire is going to be a head of operations, right? Director of ops, possibly a COO from the industry, someone who has ran this type of business at a high level, who is looking for a bigger opportunity to have some type of ownership in a business that has the potential of being, worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the future, right? And someone who understands every aspect of the business for us, who can take over the execution of what we're building, right? That's the biggest thing, is an implementer, someone who could actually implement on what we have here, and really be the person to build the how behind it, right? I got super clear on that. And then I'm like, how long am I actually willing to wait for the perfect person in that role to come into our company? And I got clear. I'm like, hey, 3 to 5 months, absolute max. 3 to 5 months. 5 months is even scary because like that's almost a year of us owning this property, right? And it's like we want to buy 2 more properties this year, so we got some big goals on top of the development of this. But I recognize, I'm like, the moment I can get that director of operations on our team or a COO, so we can get somebody from a large short-term rental company currently that can come into the company and help us build from the ground up the team. I'm willing to wait 90 days to have the right person in place to bring that person in that can actually start scaling that. And then I start asking backwards from there is, what do we need in place to be able to attract this person in 3 months from now? And I'm like, oh, we need our business plan dialed in. We need to approach our investor, and we have to lock up some funding, right? To hire this person, assuming that this is going to be a 6-figure position, right? Or growing into a 6-figure position with some equity and vested equity, the whole thing. And then I'm like, oh, we also need not only our business plan, but we also need a timeline on how we want to scale this financially and where we want to go. So all of that to get to a point of like saying, okay, in 90 days, my goal is to hire that person. But then it's also looking at, in the next 90 days, I'm not even thinking about hiring this person. I shouldn't say that. I'm not working to hire this person. I'm working on that, what I need in place to be able to bring that person into the team. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So over the next 90 days, I'm not stressing about, oh, I need this person. I'm going to try to hire. Who can I hire? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, we're getting clear on the business model. We're getting clear on the financials. We're going to approach the investor, and then we're going to build out a hiring funnel for that person. So then in 90 days, we can bring that person in.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I got clear on this weekend, is like, if we can find that third person for us to plug into our system now, then we have the ability to really scale Freewyld at a high level. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. And then as far as the team past that, that's what the director of operations will start building out from our org chart that we have right now.
Yeah. And who knows, we might find that person through this very podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm more than confident. that was the other question for people who are looking to build a team on top of this. I started writing after how long am I willing to wait for this person to come in? Then it's where does this person hang out? Where do I find this person? It's going to be through our network. I got super clear on that. I'm like, we'll have a budget to go and hire and get a headhunter and do the whole thing. But we're going to find our first key hires for Freewyld through the podcast or our email list or our student base. So it's going to be in our community.
Yeah. 100%. I want to tell you something really funny before we hop off here that kind of shows the power of the podcast. You remember last episode you were sharing the experience of staying at that really cool place. What was it called? Retro.
Oh yeah, Retrograde in Joshua Tree.
Yeah. So the people that designed that unit actually listened to the podcast and they reached out to me. Yeah,
nice.
They reached out. They were like, "Hey, we were listening to you guys. Awesome to hear you had you had this experience and stuff. And they want to chat. So maybe we'll get them on the podcast. Actually,
there we go. That's amazing. So these are the hosts or designers?
Now they're the people that designed the place.
Cool.
Yeah, they work with the management company.
Right on. That's
so
awesome.
I thought that was I thought it was cool.
Them.
Yeah. So it's so the reason I bring it up is because I feel the same way as you're saying. Like we'll find when we've been finding the last few people that started working with us, we've been finding them through our network and our community. So I agree. I think so. I think we're gonna find amazing person to through this podcast, through the email. So if you're listening to this, sounds like something for you, feel free to reach out to us. Send us an email at team@overnightsuccess.io. But yeah, man.
That's right.
I gotta hop. I'm jumping on. I'm supporting our newest coach, Rebecca, on her next Legends X accountability call, which the accountability call started this week. So super fun, super excited. We have an amazing group. So yeah, that's it for today.
All right, man. We will chat next week, and I'm excited for it, man. Freewyld is going to be we're going to start seeing Freewyld come into the brand really develop over the next couple of months, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah. The future is bright. The future is exciting, and have fun at your yacht this weekend. I'll go chase some monkeys. And to the listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll be back on Monday with an episode of the host show, and next week on Friday with an episode of STR Conversations. So see you then.
That's right.